Hi, and welcome to Fathoms Deep, a Black Sails podcast from Common Room Radio. I'm Liz Stevens.
And I'm Daphne Olive. Liz, what'd you do last night?
Oh, no big deal. I just sat around, drank, and chatted with Zach McGowan. I had a Manhattan. He had a Ducati. He showed me his sword.
This is true. This is totally true. You just described it better than I ever could have.
Well, you know.
That's fabulous. So, yeah, surprise everyone. I mean, I guess we both actually tweeted about this, but we did talk to Zach McGowan, and it was lovely. As per usual, we had technical issues because
I just don't understand this.
We are blessed with the most amazing creators and cast of this show who
luckily are very understanding.
Very understanding. But yes, so we did lose Zach after a little while. So we are actually going to do Zach McGowan part 2 at some point. We managed to get quite drunk and be super silly with him. And then we're going to have part 2 where we are going to be much more professional.
Sure.
And ask him serious questions. And we definitely won't drink anything.
No drinking and no flirting, I promise. Scout's honor.
Yeah, you don't. Don't make promises you can't keep.
Also not a scout. Nope. Do not promise.
Fair enough. So yes. So you all have a lot of treats coming. After this episode, soon after this episode, you will have a episode with Zaytu, which sadly was me and not Liz because of technical issues.
Again, because of technical issues. But you know what? I'm really looking forward to listening to that one. I got to visit with her a little bit before you all did the actual interview, and she was delightful and smart. And I'm really looking forward to hearing all of the things that she had to say.
Yeah. So she's fabulous. And then, I don't know, there's a lot of podcasts to edit, but hopefully by the end of the week or the next weekend, we'll have that Zach McGowan ready for everyone. So yay. Fun for us. Fun for all of you. Do we have any other announcements? Oh, I wanted to quickly say, Black Sails season 1 through 3 is now on Hulu.
Yes. Yes, it is.
So everyone who's been trying to convince their friends to watch this amazing show and has heard, oh, but I don't have stars.
Right.
Now you know what to say.
It's on Hulu now. Tell them to watch it. Yep. Absolutely right.
Absolutely do that. And, and I had a quick story. One quick story. Toby Schmitz actually posted this on Instagram, but in episode 4, when they had the fight, on the ship.
I saw that. He got some wicked stitches.
Yeah, he got 5 stitches. He got a real life wound. They had to bring in a plastic surgeon. He did.
A plastic surgeon. Wow.
He had to bring a plastic surgeon in to patch that boy up. So
oh no. Whoops.
I know. So yeah, go look at his Instagram. It's pretty gruesome. Yep. Poor boy.
Oh man, yep. Give him some love.
Exactly. Proper pirate.
Uh-huh.
Okay, let's talk about this episode.
Sure.
Sail! Can I ask you a question before we really start? I just want to ask you real quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
Did you think that Silver chose Flint or Billy? When they were going through those tunnels, what did you think was going to happen?
Oh,
just flash decision, and then we'll discuss it.
Yeah, no, I don't think that I was worrying too much about it. I was just kind of watching it unfold, but I think that I always believed he was going to side with Flint.
See, I was quite torn. Okay, so let's go through that. I'm really fascinated how different people experience that. I mean, I was really not sure up until when Jacob Garrett started talking to Billy. I was not sure which way this was going to go.
Right. Which is as it was intended.
Yes, and I am definitely a person who gets swept up with often with what the intention of the story. I'm very susceptible to that.
I think it's because of Maddie. I think that if Maddie had sided with Billy, then Silver probably would have too, because he was on the fence. He didn't know. Yeah. So, but since she had chosen Flint and
decidedly so,
and is not unlike him in the decision-making processes.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll go through all the parts of that. Yeah. Liz, we're going to do this in chronological order. The
Thank
thing you always dream for.
Infinitely easier for me. Well, you get to watch them like 7 to 9 times or whatever.
Right.
So it's easy for you to just pick up this conversation and this conversation. But for me,
right. I know. I mean, I do think overall in most episodes it makes more sense because it's really about character groupings.
Yeah, of course. No, I just mean as a thinking on my feet. Yes.
I know. I try, I keep you sharp.
You do, quite.
But yeah, in this one, I think because of the progression, I mean, this really, except for the Woodes Rogers part, is really one story. This one.
Yes. Well, and even a continuing story. I think you were right. You mentioned to me earlier in the week that that this really played like part 2 after 404, and I would agree. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really do feel like these 2 episodes are 2 parts of a whole, and I think that this episode needs to be discussed in chronological order because you are leading up to Well, basically, you're leading up to that decision that Silver made that we didn't know until we saw what he actually decided. Sure. And the only part that's aside is the Woodes Rogers. So there's just a part, the Havana part I'm basically going to group together. We're just going to talk about Havana all as once, even though it's in 2 parts. Okay. Otherwise, full on chronological order. Enjoy, excellent. Liz. Can't make any promises about next episode.
Sure, fair enough.
Well, let's get into that story then, because this is a good one, this episode.
Yeah, okay, let's dive in.
Prepare to board. Aye.
Okay, well, we start with Silver. I mean, we start right where we left off.
We do. We start with that, right with that beautiful sequence with him walking down the tunnel into the light that we had in the little preview for the season, right?
Yep, that was in the preview for the season.
Beautiful cinematography. Gorgeous work.
Right. It's really beautiful. I feel like I'm still processing like what the visual language is there, like what it's saying to us. But I mean, the thing that most struck me is that Silver's alone. Yes. The other thing that struck me is that Silver is emerging. I mean, we've had so much
It reminded
emphasis.
me more of that birth imagery, actually. Did you think of that?
Oh, yeah. I did not. I was thinking more like coming from the underworld imagery, which is not dissimilar.
Is not dissimilar. No.
Right. But yeah, that striking image of him and also aloneness. I mean, well, I guess I said that already, but I mean, I think a huge part of this episode is about how a king stands alone.
Yes, absolutely.
And so we even start with that. We start with him looking so small.
Yeah, that's a good point too.
And standing between darkness and light.
Yes.
And looking very small and vulnerable, to be honest.
Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Which I feel like is kind of what's going on with him in this whole episode.
Definitely. Well, and I also felt in this whole episode, maybe it's just because we're seeing more of him on land, but his limp seems more and more exaggerated.
Yeah, just remember what Luke said about how his body was wrecked by this season.
Yes. Oh, of course.
I just think about that every episode. Like, it is not easy to like walk around on a crutch.
No. Oof. Yeah. Good call.
I think Luke actually tweeted he was in the live tweet of the last episode where he was just like, hot sand, angry pirates, walking on a crutch. That exhaustion that it looks like is real.
Yes, I'm sure.
But it's very appropriate. I mean, it's as hard as it must have been for Luke Arnold.
Right.
John Silver was probably doubly exhausted. And, that crown, it's pretty heavy. Pretty heavy this episode.
Yes, it sure is. Absolutely.
Okay, so next he meets up with Billy. And Billy is not happy.
Thesis statement.
Billy's not happy. No, that's not actually our thesis statement. We are going to explain our thesis statement game. No, we're just joking. Joking about, angry, surly Billy. Silver obviously didn't have he's fast on his feet, but he didn't have a lot of time to figure out what the hell he was going to say after this thing that happened that he was against, that he now has to defend. And so he says, we insured, and Billy's like, we insured? Like, he's just like, what the hell is wrong with you? And then they get, to the part where Billy's just like, okay, you're going to make me ask, like, this story you're telling me doesn't work. And that's when Silver tells him the real story about the cash. And the one thing that Billy says to me, which just, I don't know. I mean, I just joked about Billy being angry and surly, but Billy actually is making a hell of a lot of sense this whole episode.
Oh, no, he is. Yeah, he just has a different perspective. He's just coming at this from another angle is all.
Right. No, that's exactly right. That's the way to look at it. And so he said, when is anything guaranteed?
Right. Sure.
It was just like, yeah, I mean, he might as well have just said, come on, dude. We know about that whole shifting sands thing.
Right, exactly. Yep. Have you even watched the show?
Right. I feel like a lot of times this season I keep being like, characters, have you not watched the show you're in?
Right, yeah. Clearly not.
Right. And then he's like, you agreed to this? And this was interesting because Silver said, he originally said, well, Flint agreed to this. Mm-hmm. And he actually said, I didn't agree. And this made me think of the last episode where they talked about daylight, about there being daylight between them.
Oh, and
I was like,
yes.
He said, I didn't agree. And I was like, damn, you just opened that door. There's just a lot of daylight coming in right now between you and Flint.
Oh, interesting. Yes.
And then he said, but I trust his judgment. So like that door shut a little bit, tiny bit less daylight. But like we're already in the beginning. We're just like, United Front, proper parenting might be might be out the window.
Yes.
Oh my God, I'm totally going to use that from now on. In our household, we're going to call it proper parenting.
Yeah, as well you should. Nope, I agree.
No daylight, proper parenting.
No daylight, proper parenting.
Okay, so then we get to, I guess I skipped. Did you want to talk about Miss Hudson and Eleanor? I didn't.
Nope, not with her sending her off. Nope. Other than that, I still love that green dress of Eleanor's a lot.
Yes, and you're now getting it for, what is this, the third episode?
Yeah.
Fourth episode of that?
That's her nice dress. So yes.
Well, that's the dress she escaped in. She might have other nice dresses.
Yeah, that's the one that it's what she's got. Yep.
That's the one that made it to the fort with her.
Exactly.
Okay, so then we have Miss Hudson arriving at Roger's ship.
Yes.
And, just in case we thought that, season 3 Rogers that we kind of liked was back. Mm-hmm. Not back. There was one of the redcoats tried to give her a hand, be a gentleman. And Rogers just pushed him out of the way. And instead of giving her a hand like you would to a woman, he grabbed her arm and pulled her. And I was like, dude, even your nice facade is gone.
Yes.
Like you're not even trying anymore.
A different face of civilization. Yes.
A different face of civilization. Mm-hmm. Yes, civilization has many faces.
Yes, it does.
Some of them have scars. Some of them don't.
Right.
Sometimes it doesn't matter anymore because you just get the one face from that guy.
That's true. At least he's not two-faced anymore. He's picked a side. The coin has flipped.
Okay. Right. So now does he go into our column of people who are being really honest about their nature? Maybe. I don't know. I don't really want to give him credit for much of anything right now.
It's early to say. It really is. Yeah.
It really is. Okay. So then the thing that I love in this part, well, there's a bunch of things that are interesting, but when Eleanor and Flint are in the fort.
Oh, yes.
There's two things that are fascinating to me. One is that Eleanor totally assumed that Woodes Rogers was going to keep coming towards Nassau,
right?
Even after the message. Mm-hmm. And then she asks Flint for his advice and his help,
which I quite liked. It did remind me of their alliance in earlier seasons. Was it 2 when they had the alliance with the Urquhart? Or was that even earlier?
They were pretty much an alliance all through. Yeah. Well, up until when he came back with the warship, and then she sided with Vane. So I guess it was mostly season 1 where they were aligned well. But yes, this is a nice reminder that the two of them worked well together once upon a time.
Well, and that she respects Flint very much as a leader, and we've seen even with her on the opposite side. She's the one who told Woodes Rogers not to underestimate Flint.
Absolutely.
That he was leading them to where he wanted the battle to be fought on that beach. So she does very much respect him as a tactician, I suppose. Yeah.
Well, right. And as a great thinker, I mean, she recognizes him. And again, I mean, I liked, it's so funny. Like I find myself saying that I'm really loving like aspects of old Eleanor.
Yes.
Right. So we get we don't get a whole lot of Eleanor in this episode, but what we do get is this kind of integrated Eleanor, that she is being a tactical thinker and being strong and standing her ground. Right. But again, she's doing it with compassion now. I mean, it's fascinating. Right. She doesn't seem to me ruthless or cold. She's using all of her skills, but minus that. Like now it's with compassion. Now it's with, it's fascinating. Oh, so the question I had for you is like, where do we feel like, I guess this is part of last episode, this whole question of like, what is going on with Flint? Like, do we feel like this moment of them working together, are they in parallel right now? At the gate, I brought that up again. I guess I'm just going to keep raising this question because I don't feel like this episode answered it either.
No.
So it's really hard to make sense.
It's so impossible now to know Flint's motivations and his end game and his goals. And they're doing that purposefully, I'm quite sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So again, I'm really not trying to figure it out because I love to see the way that they tell me the story and tell me what's happening. So
I'm just enjoying looking at the clues of it. I'm not trying to predict which it is, but I feel like, we've had clues. Like, so here we have them working together and we know Eleanor's goal is to get the hell out of this situation.
Yes.
So that much we know, and we get to see them working well together. So that's it. That's as far as, I'm not going to say anything because I don't know. I find it fascinating. I think it's really, in a way, it's like we're back to season 1 on some level with Flint, where we just spent all of our time going like, who is this dude and what is he about?
Right.
And then we got his backstory. And then in season 3, we got like all this stuff about Flint's state of mind. And now suddenly I'm just like, where is he? Like, is he going towards McGraw? Is he not going towards McGraw? Is this like a new Flint?
Right.
Is this like Flint just, throwing up his hands and saying, I just give up? It's very unclear. And I'm loving that. Yeah. I love having him be mysterious again.
Right. And he certainly is that. Yes.
Yeah. Super mysterious right now, but less aggressively so. It's a quiet mystery.
Yeah, I like that.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Okay, so then Miss Hudson gives Rogers the message, and this message really resonates with a lot of the conversations we've had in season 4. She says that Eleanor wanted Woodes Rogers to know that he should trust her, that this is a commitment. This is based on commitment, not betrayal, and an act of love.
I feel like if you have to lead out with this is not an act of betrayal, maybe made a bad choice.
Well, again, these are, it's funny, I ended up saying this with Zaytu, like these are couples who are in the strain of war.
That is very
true. We can't 100% judge them based on like, it's not like going to the grocery and not agreeing about what's for dinner.
Right. Sure. Of course.
Like they're just dealing with slightly different level of stress and consequences for their choices.
Of course.
But I love this. Like, and meanwhile, these cannonballs are going over the ship. One of them actually, I think, did hit a sail. Like, and I just felt like, this is again like, hello, Woodes Rogers. Now you're meeting our Eleanor. This is the Eleanor. Yes. And this is essentially what he said. He's like, oh, great. She's going back to that Eleanor.
Right. Which was fascinating. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So my next question to you is when he does turn the ship around, did you believe that he had capitulated to Eleanor's plan?
Oh, no. I mean, he definitely had a look on his face that the wheels were turning. So he had a plan. He had something running. I didn't know what it was.
Well, you definitely didn't assume it was Havana, because I remember when I saw Havana, I was just like, holy shit.
Yes. No, I did not make that assumption at all. I'm certain that no one did. Yeah, that was, but brilliant.
Yes.
A high risk, but he's right that having it be the Urca gold, which had just pissed off Spain so much, that was a big bargaining chip for him to have.
Oh, interesting. So okay, we're not at the Havana part, but let me just ask you a quick question. You just said that you talked about it like gambling.
Yeah.
So is this, I mean, we've had a lot of parallels between Jack. I mean, we've had the most obvious parallels between Rogers and Flint. Mm-hmm. But might this be like, he and Jack
this is a total Jack Rackham move.
Right?
Yeah, this is Jack Rackham's kind of backed into a corner, think of the clever way out move that's high risk, but relies on that Achilles heel of the enemy in a way that Flint doesn't.
It is kind of, I mean, Jack Rackham never had the kind of power like Woodes Rogers explains to his captain, like why this is going to work. So Jack never had those kinds of tools in his hands of was like, well, I'm the most important governor, so of course they're not going to fire on our ship. But yeah, it's a bit of a Jack Rackham move there, huh?
I think so, yeah.
All right. Well, remember I asked in the first episode, like, are we going to see scrappy Woodes Rogers? This is a bit scrappy on his side. It is scrappy.
No, this is scrappy. Yeah, I would say so. I mean, as scrappy as you can be when he's so very poised and dignified in that way.
Sure, but still,
Yeah, he has none of that feral quality we talked about Jack Rackham having. Yeah, but the way he thinks his way out of this corner is very Rackham.
Neat. I mean, terrifying, but neat also.
Horrifying. Yep.
All right, let's get to the next conversation, the Silver and Maddie conversation here.
Oh
my God. Okay, I love that this is prefaced by Silver standing there, and we see Maddie coming. And how do we see Maddie walking towards him? Kofi is literally moving pirates out of the way to clear a path for her.
I didn't notice that. That's wonderful.
Isn't that wonderful? Mm-hmm. And I just love that because it's just like, hey, Silver, you haven't seen your girlfriend for a bit because she was like out at the Underhills, like finding out horrifying details about what's going on in the interior. Mm-hmm. Let's remind you that this woman, royalty.
Yes.
Because she's got a guy. She's got a guy who will just move scary pirates out of the way, out of her way. First of all, I want that guy. I want a guy like that. Like for when it's really crowded at the grocery, I kind of want Kofi. Like just be like, okay, move aside. Like lift people up and move them out of the way for my grocery cart. I need a Kofi. I really would like a Kofi.
Who doesn't?
So yeah, I loved that entrance so much because it's subtle, right? So you didn't notice it. No, maybe it took me more watches. It's subtle, but it's totally there.
I'm sure.
It's so striking once you notice it.
Yeah.
So like, okay, we start this conversation with like, hi, Silver. This isn't just your like awesome girlfriend. She happens to be a princess as well. Mm-hmm. And then they have the conversation about the cash. And yeah, it's what do you think is going on with Maddie here? I'm so fascinated. Like when he tells her about the cash, she pauses and she seems not happy possibly, and then she kind of regains her composure.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think she's shocked by the new development, but her first thought is to try to see well, and I wonder if she was even trying to see his point of view or if she just was weighing the options and thinking of what she would have done in that scenario, which I think is probably closer to the truth.
Right. Well, and she now knows stuff that neither Silver nor Flint. I mean, Flint could have guessed at how bad things were in the interior, but she heard about the army, that Julius and the army in the interior that hate the pirates. So she actually knows stuff that neither Flint nor Silver know.
Right.
That she's basically coming back with this information.
Right. I had forgotten about that she hadn't shared that with them yet.
Right. And so, so she says that it was the right decision, and then Silver gets pretty mad at her. Yeah,
which was interesting. Yeah, to see them handling conflict was interesting.
Boy, was it, huh?
It was surprising. Yeah. I'm trying to remember exactly now how it went out or how it played out.
You want me to describe how it played out?
Do please, yes.
Okay, so she composed herself and then said it was the right decision, and he got mad. And then she argued her point. That was the next thing she did. She said, "You didn't see what I did," and explained that, about the problems in the interior. And then she said, a fight with Woodes Rogers would not work right now because Billy has destroyed any option for coalition that they had with the enslaved people from the interior. And then she said that drastic measures were called for, and that the cash is not the only one. She said that Billy basically needs to go.
Yeah, she did.
So that's the first part of their conversation, right? And it's interesting to me the way she framed it. She said that he's the cause of the damage done to the alliance, and the way to repair that alliance is to remove the cause. And what this reminded me of a whole lot was the way Billy had talked about Max in the last episode.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Right?
Yes, definitely.
That Billy basically said the pirates are pissed off. The way to appease them is to offer them Max.
Yeah.
Now, Billy wanted to offer them Max in a, hanging sort of way, possibly, or worse. Maddie, I think, has more discretion than that. And she's just saying he needs to go, although we find out from Silver later that he understood that to be
really
that Billy
the
needs
only
to
option.
die.
Yeah, it's kind of head on a pike stuff, I feel like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think both of them understand they couldn't do that because Billy has a lot of followers. I mean, again, we know how this plays out.
Right,
but,
sure.
And she says that Billy and Flint cannot coexist. So she's making it very clear which of them she's chosen. And then Silver's like, seriously? How are we going to do this? If we don't have a treasury and we don't have Billy leading the people, how are we going to do this thing? We may have Nassau, but how are we going to do it? And I love that she says, we'll struggle through it. And she said, we knew this was going to be difficult. And the bit of perspective that I love here is think about where Maddie's from. She's from a community that her parents, or the people, and then her parents in addition, built from nothing. She understands that you can struggle. And what if she says, she's like, we'll have people hunt. We'll have people learn things. We'll in her world, they did this already.
Right.
They did exactly that. They built a community out of nothing, not even the remains of Nassau. They built it out of the forest or whatever, the jungle.
Right. Yeah, in the wild.
Right. So, I mean, I think that this is a basic divide between them, is that she understands that this is possible. It'll be a struggle.
Right.
But it's possible. What's interesting to me is Silver. Have we now reached? We watch Silver become more and more enmeshed and more committed. Are we now watching the moment where he's like, okay, this isn't actually what I signed up for? He's lost his leg.
Yes.
He's gone towards the darkness. And he's like, yeah, but now you're asking too much. It's interesting.
It is. I wonder, well, I mean, I suppose Billy has become representative of the crew as a whole. Maybe because he's such, even when he's not a quartermaster, he's such a quartermaster. He's such a voice for the crew. And he's in that way, maybe become to Silver, a representation of his community. And maybe it's the symbol of that he's having a harder time with than the actual person of Billy. Does that make sense?
Oh, it does make sense. It also makes sense that Silver, even though he made coalition with Flint, his original motivation was not for this large war. His original motivation was for the sake of his crew as a quartermaster. And the other thing I wanted to bring up is this, in season 3, when they talked about Flint, Maddie offered herself as a tether.
Yeah.
But if she's going down Flint's road and she's now bound to Flint.
Oh, God, yes.
Who's the tether?
Although I don't know that Flint's road here is one of darkness. it's just, again, it's doing the hard thing. I mean, it's war, which is a different kind of darkness than what Silver was afraid of, I think, when they had that conversation.
Sure, absolutely. And Silver did say to Billy that Flint and I have discussed this, but I feel like as uncomfortable in the first episode as Silver seemed about Maddie's distrust of Flint,
right,
I think that was actually possibly a very comfortable place for him, that he knew that there was balance.
Sure, right, of course. Yeah, because he remembered the times he'd been taken in by Flint.
Right. So he could trust his own instincts in relation to Flint because he knew that Maddie was going to be a counterbalance.
Right. Oh, I see. Yeah.
And now because the layout of the scenery has changed and Maddie is now talking a whole lot like Flint. And again, I think Maddie was always a bit like Flint. Maddie was always she was always a leader. She was always going to think about her people in the large picture.
Right.
But only because she's talking like Flint suddenly is Silver now confronted with the idea that this might not, groove with what his needs from her and his vision are. I know it's such an interesting scene. It has so many levels. But the thing I love most, so he even says, you sound exactly like him. And she's like, I don't understand the problem here.
Yeah. Is that bad? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. But then the beautiful thing, the most beautiful thing, the thing that has now, I didn't realize that my esteem for Maddie could go higher than it was.
Right. Uh-huh.
Until this moment, is that he's walking away and he's mad and she says, wait. And she says, Billy was your friend. This is not easy for me, but I know it's harder for you. Don't forget that I know that.
Right. Yeah. Which is lovely.
I love her so much.
She's really great. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. So I just wanted to bring a little context to that.
Okay.
My thoughts about the context of that. So Silver survived from the beginning, right? Like we talked to Luke about this a lot, and this is something that you and I talked about. Silver survived from the beginning by proving he's useful to other people.
Uh-huh.
Right? Like he did that with Flint. He did that with Eleanor. Remember when he was chained to that sofa and he was like advising Eleanor? That's always what he did, that he was like, I'm not scary, but I can be super useful. I'm a great advisor. Like I can really tell you smart things to do. And up until Maddie, everyone has used him that way. Mm-hmm. So, remember the conversation we had during the doldrums where I was so upset for Silver and Billy was saying, you have to go down into this dark place for the sake of everyone with Flint. Right. And Silver's like, but I'm scared of that dark place, right?
Yes.
And Billy didn't offer to be a tether. Billy did not. He was just like, just do the fucking thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right? And so I feel like Billy and Flint and everyone have always basically said to Silver, like, do what I need you to do.
Right.
And I don't really care what the consequences are for you.
Mm.
And Maddie just broke that.
Yes.
Maddie was the person who, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, and gave him room to have complicated emotions about this thing that he was going to have to do.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And again, he created this. He created this dynamic where he basically said to everyone, don't think about me, just see me as useful. But I think that has worn him down. Like the more he was leaned on by everyone else, I mean, to the extent of like Billy creating him as a figurehead story king without even caring what Silver's input would be about that. Like nobody cared. Until this moment, nobody had ever expressed any concern for, Flint's like, oh, does your leg hurt? Stuff like that. But like, basically, this was the first moment where someone said, hey, I see you.
Right. Uh-huh.
And I understand this is hard for you. And the power of that moment when she does that, and then he turns around and he goes back to her. That's when he, right? And
yes,
then,
which is lovely. Yeah. I thought for a moment he was just going to keep walking. So it was nice.
It's beautiful. Mm-hmm. But then he asks her the question that also now resonates.
Oh, which is so lovely. This is the most surprising thing I've ever heard Silver say, I think.
Right?
Yeah.
Ah, shit. It's so beautiful. And this is on the heels of the conversation he had with Flint about about vulnerability, your vulnerability making you not have as much reason.
Sure.
And
yes.
And him asking Flint the same thing. If Thomas Hamilton was alive, would you just walk away? But he uses the words, would I be enough? Which is exactly like the conversation with Max and Eleanor.
Yeah. Oh, isn't it? Yes.
Right? And remember the parallels we've had between Eleanor and Maddie and between Silver and Max.
Sure. Yeah.
But Max was the one who wanted to be enough way in the beginning.
For sure.
And Silver has maybe just now reached that level of emotional, I don't know, openness, emotional.
Yeah. Awareness even.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Right. That he asked that question. And she, of course, can't even look him in the eye after he asks it.
I mean, she's royalty. I'm going to say she's going to be a queen, and it's different.
Right.
Yeah, he came up from nothing, and she has had greatness thrust upon her. So, yes.
Yeah. I mean, he has too, but obviously he has a sense that he can walk away from it because it's a fiction. Like they say later on, it's a fiction.
That's right.
Whereas for her, it's integral to her whole identity, this responsibility for her people. Yeah.
It's important that he sees that too, though, and respects it as part. I mean, sometimes that's too much to ask from somebody.
Absolutely.
Which he says, he says, never mind, don't answer that.
But that doesn't mean that this isn't going to be an issue.
No, definitely true. Definitely true.
It's one of those things that once you say it, you cannot unsay it.
You can't take it back. Isn't that true? Oh, and we have some more of that coming up later too. Yes.
Yes, we do. Okay. All right. So our next scene is also weighty. There's just a lot of weighty scenes here. Is Eleanor and Flint in that cell?
Yeah. Oh, and this is what I was going to say then. Then I will come right on the heels of that with things that you can't unsay. When Flint asks if Woodes Rogers is really any different from the rest of us.
Yeah.
That is planting such a seed of doubt in her. You can see it. You can see it break her down a bit, and how much she needs to believe in Woodes Rogers and how much she's put on the line in support of him.
Well, and she also happens to be pregnant with his baby right now.
And
so
pregnant with his baby. So there's that extra forever connection. Yes, absolutely. Oh, God. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, she needs him to be the man she believes him to be.
Right. Oh. And we totally know things that she doesn't know right now.
We do. Yeah. And granted, I mean, Eleanor's got a lot of darkness in her too. And so there's a lot of room for understanding for her, I think.
Sure. I don't know. No. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just like, I might be more affected by the whole keel hauling thing than some people because of my love of Teach.
The keel hauling was awful. But remember, she's the one who offered up Charles Vane to be hung in the public square or hanged in the public square.
Yeah, but she narrativized that to herself as protecting him. I mean, okay, he narrativized what he did as protecting her, but still.
Yes. But this is what I'm saying. It's like they're very well matched, I think, still.
I still think the hanging is less brutal. The hanging is still within the bounds of what she could tell herself is what's supposed to happen to pirates. That is the thing that's done.
But even keel hauling was done all the time.
I don't think it was done by governors.
Oh, this certainly not the act of a... No, okay.
This is not an act of a governor. This is the act of a pirate.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's fair.
Do you see what I'm saying?
I do.
And that, again, he tells the story of taking his time, torturing and killing people.
That is very true, which is not good. And that's not like Eleanor at all. No, you're right.
And we are reminded. Yeah, Eleanor definitely. I mean, she's sent lackeys out to, slaughter whole crews.
And I guess that's what I mean. Is she understands that that there are dark deeds that call for dark men or whatever it was that Berenger had said.
Sure. Yes, she is not immune to that. She's not outside of that.
But she doesn't have the capability of doing it herself in the way that Woodes Rogers does.
Well, or as Jack said at the end, the bloodlust.
The bloodlust. I mean,
that's the thing. Precisely. That's the thing. I mean, the thing that I feel like has taken us... The keel hauling took us outside of our frame of reference.
Yeah.
That everyone had killed for politics, had killed for for what they need to have happen in the shifting sands. This was like glorying in there. I mean, again, and then we get that in the last episode with the red coats and Jack and Anne. Like, we had, up until this point, we had not had people just killing for the sheer joy of doing it for revenge.
Oof.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I mean, I just feel like he brought us into, pirates, black sails. This is a violent show and people kill and die. And yet, I've always argued that this show never revels in that. Until now, but the show is reveling in it to some extent because the characters that we're being exposed to, or the sides of the characters we are being exposed to, is the fact that they are people who actually would revel in it.
Right. Oh.
Right. So that's right. Again, that is a new frame of reference. Okay. So, but there are a few other things I wanted to talk about in this cell scene.
Sure.
I first wanted to talk about the composition of it, because this is very reminiscent of our cell scene with Vane.
With Vane, of course it is.
So we had a dark cell. We have a beam of light, which the beam of light in season 3 was a beam of light coming from a window straight onto Vane. And we, saw all sorts of significance in that. In this scenario, in this little tableau that we have, there is also a beam of light, but it is not shining on Flint. It's shining kind of like, in front of him and back of him, but it's shining outside of like his immediate sphere. He's mostly in darkness. There's portions of the scene where he's completely a shadow. There's portions of the scene where half of his face is lit up and half not.
Yeah.
But it's not like the Vane situation where that beam of light was so decidedly shining on him.
Yes.
And the other difference was that Eleanor in the cell with Vane, she was wearing a very dark bluish gray that really blended into the walls. And I remember you said that she was part of his imprisonment. Her green dress, now she does stand next to a greenish looking wall, so I started to doubt myself. My first thought was like, she actually stands out from the prison cell. And I was like, okay, but now it's kind of the same color, but it's like there's no sense of like her body kind of becoming one with it color-wise. So those were the two things. And again, this is, I feel like, another hint about Flint. Like, so, we kind of tied that beam of light on Vane to him becoming kind of his truest self. And then dying. But
yes.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry, everyone. Sorry, I just said that. But you all know it happened. That beam of light was about his purity and about the fact that he had become the truest expression of himself.
Right.
So is the beam of light decidedly pointed not at Flint mean that he is, again, I mean, I feel like Flint has transformed for us so many times. Like, does this mean that he is still in some transformation that makes the beam of light not shine on him that directly? I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. Just raising questions because I like to do that.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's good. It's a good thing to watch because we sure don't know. Oh.
So this is where she asks him about Scott, and my heart breaks for Eleanor. I mean, we talked about this last season.
It is lovely. This season has wonderful Eleanor. This is my favorite Eleanor, and she is becoming my favorite character in this season, which is extraordinary.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Or at least, I mean, she and Maddie, I think. Yeah. I mean, those are the two who I'm just so fascinated by.
Well, and John explicitly said that they kind of envisioned them as, not twins exactly, although we talked about twins, but separated from birth.
Right.
And that looking at how they are similar and how they are different is very telling because they grew up in such different ways.
Yes, sure.
Even though they were so tied to each other.
Yes.
So she comes to understand that Scott this whole time had totally been lying to her.
Yes.
And not just lying to her. The thing that she said, for so long I knew what I was, a daughter who usurped her father, a woman who took over a wild place. And she said, and Scott substantiated that view.
Yes.
And there's two aspects of this that have to do with story. She said, but all he saw that, basically he had this, he was lying to her.
Right.
All he ever saw really was not what she thought he was seeing, but was a girl so ambitious that she would never doubt his story.
Mm-hmm.
So, right. So he was creating his own story, but he was also, I feel like in this way she's talking about it, he created the story of her to some extent because she was so young. That by pushing her forward, like he said he did in season 3, he explained that he pushed her forward.
Right.
By pushing forward, he was writing Eleanor's story. This idea that she had of herself as this aggressive woman was partly created by Scott as a way to mask his own deception.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. No wonder she loses her footing so much. Yes.
So it's just like, the one good dad. He was supposed to be the good dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, again,
and that's a big thing to have taken from her. Yes.
I understand him. I'm not judging Scott.
No.
Like, he was her slave. He tried to save his family. He tried to protect his people. That's not me blaming Scott, but it's just going from Eleanor's perspective, what she said at the end. She's just like, Flint said that you did those things, which is interesting. Like, was Flint like, is he praising her or blaming her? Like, it was just so interesting.
It is
like,
interesting, and I don't know. Yeah.
Right? It's a little bit of both. It's like, yes, you did. Right. Yes, you did usurp your father. You also took over a wild place. Like, it could sound like a judgment, and it could be like, well, actually you are kind of kick-ass.
Right. Right.
Even if Scott was, pretending to believe that about you. But then she said, there was always a man behind me doing his damnedest to bend it to his benefit.
And I think when he brings up Woodes Rogers as, maybe he's not any different, I think that is sincerely looking out for Eleanor.
I do too.
You think
he's so gentle with her in this cell.
Yeah.
He's so gentle. I think, right. I mean, they hadn't seen each other in a really long time, and sure, they had been enemies, but like deep down, remember that he kissed her on her forehead.
I do. That's what I was just thinking of. It's that same, we talk about the paternal motivations that Flint tends to have and how they so often go awry, but I don't mind them with Eleanor. Maybe because she has such terrible fathers. Not that Flint's a good one either. But
no, but maybe he's the best one she's had throughout.
That's what I'm starting to think, right? Maybe just, partly because his distance has made it to where there wasn't that much expected of him. But
fair enough.
Yeah, right. Had he been around more, he would have fucked it up. Don't worry.
Yeah, you definitely don't want James Flint as your actual dad.
No, that's not the thing you want. Yeah.
I really felt like this was a very touching scene. And again, you can never put past Flint, calculating when he speaks. When words come out of his mouth, chances are there are motives. But I feel like this is one of those moments where it's actually less motivated by that and more. Oh, it's hard to say. I mean, again, no, actually, if we think about it, his motivation right now is not to have her separate from Woodes Rogers because they made a deal.
That's right. No, he wants that deal to go through. Absolutely.
Right. Putting daylight between her and Rogers is counterproductive to his goal right now.
Right. Yeah. No, I think it's sincere. Right. At the very least, he wants her to be careful. Yeah.
Right. Well, God, so do I.
Right? Goodness.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, it's just, I think, again, Toby Stephens, like, it's just like the level of gentleness that we see in this conversation is just something, again, has been very different in this season than anything we've seen before. So it's hard to say. Is he broken down? Right. Is he this? So like, we have all of these like short answers, his yeps and his, it's like, he's a different version of our guy. Not sure which version exactly yet, but I do think, I do really believe there's an element of this that has to do with caring about Eleanor.
Definitely. Yeah, I would agree.
And I needed the Eleanor and Max conversation. Kind of needed this too. I really needed to see those two be caring about each other again. Like that, for whatever has happened, they did have that. Mm-hmm. Even though it was a political alliance, they had that as well.
Right, sure.
All right, let's move on. Where are we now? What is next? Okay, now we're back to Rogers.
Oh, are we? Okay.
Yeah, now we're back. Now I would like to just compact the two parts that are the conversation with Miss Hudson before she realizes where they are, and then the part in Havana. Okay, so he starts with saying there's very little I wouldn't do to protect my wife. Mm-hmm. In the most menacing way possible. Like, that just did not seem at all comforting.
No, I completely agree. Yes.
And she's trying to argue Eleanor's side. Of course, Eleanor did forbid her to bring up the baby. I don't know how that would have affected anything.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I think just maybe not wanting to add that extra stress and change the reason he has certain motivations.
No, I love Eleanor's decision. I love that she said that she doesn't want him to find out this way. I mean, I think that was like so human of her. That was so compassionate. My question is like, maybe Miss Hudson should have like not followed that order. Like, I'm just curious. I don't know if it would have. Thinking about it for a second right now, I don't think that actually would have changed his behavior at all. But I think I would have disobeyed her if I was Miss Hudson in this situation with him being so terrifying. Or maybe it's better. Who knows? We don't know what's going to happen now. Maybe it's better if he doesn't know. Maybe it's better if Eleanor like runs the hell away from him and he never finds out that she's pregnant with his baby.
Right? Yeah. Oh, God. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. He talks about the conversation that he and Eleanor had in season 3 about him worrying about her instincts returning. Mm-hmm. And this is, he's not exactly blaming her actual specific behavior on that day. It's something much deeper. So he said that he was worried about that her instincts have awoken a more insidious something. I didn't write down what insidious, but that she began again to believe that disorder was inevitable.
Yes.
So this is the mirror of Flint talking about England being inevitable. So again, we have a story of inevitability believed by a group of people, or one person in this case, and that civilization is powerless to do anything. And this is where he has the number of faces thing. So, like, what do we think of this? I mean, again, number of faces certainly makes me think about his faces.
No, of course. And I think, of course, he's already thinking about Spain. And knowing himself, just knowing what a motivation revenge can be. Mm-hmm. And it also, though, harkened back for me that to be underestimated is a wonderful gift. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so, again, civilization has taken many forms in this story, but I feel like this is almost a new form because it's not, I feel like it's different than the way the pirates have talked about civilization. Sure. As scary as they've made civilization sound, and then as scary as we've seen civilization to be, this is like almost taking civilization to kind of a mythic place.
Yeah, definitely.
I feel like, he's now elevated civilization beyond the bounds of how it's been defined up until now.
Sure. Yeah, he's definitely upping the ante, and I mean, there's a sense of real foreboding when he says that.
Right? Mm-hmm. And then he follows it up again with repeating, there's very little I wouldn't do to protect my wife. Mm-hmm. So then he's like, I felt like he called on the forces of this mythic civilization and he's bringing them down on Eleanor. Like, I just felt like, I've never felt like Eleanor was more personally vulnerable than that moment where he talks about civilization this way and then brings it back to protecting her. Mm-hmm. Which again, remember, he defined what he did with Teach and what he planned to do with that whole crew as protecting her.
Yes, definitely.
That this was about what happens when you try to hurt the people he loves. He's a scary monster. I'm sorry. He's just really a scary monster. I feel like each episode we're really...
It's true.
I'm really terrified of him now.
Yeah, and smart.
Right. Yeah. The worst kind of scary monster.
Yeah, he's not just crazy like Ned Lowe was. Yeah, he's...
Right. Like Ned Lowe was cunning, but he wasn't smart on this level.
Not on this level, no. Yeah.
Okay, so then we get to Havana. Then we see Havana, and I just totally freaked out. I was like, holy shit, we're bringing Havana into this now? Like, this, I was just like, that was the moment where I was like, okay, this story has officially, like, that's where I gave up completely. Any claims I've made that I've been making more and more of going like, I predict nothing because there is no way I can foresee the crazy shit they're going to throw at us. And I was like, Havana, that's it. They just threw crazy shit at me that I could never have begun to imagine. I give up. I'm just tell me this story. I'm not going to try to figure out what you're going to tell me because there was no way I anticipated this thing.
I loved the set there for Havana and that governor's office. Oh my God. All of the props on his desk and his gorgeous velvet chair. And of course the way they had him barely lit at all.
Yep.
Very menacing. Oh, it was gorgeous.
It was gorgeous, and the lattice work on the windows.
Yes. No, everything. The stone floors. It was just beautiful. Right. The beams. Gorgeous.
Well, and the grandeur when they arrive in Havana and they're walking towards us. I just was so struck, like that. Compared to what we've become familiar with.
Sure. Everything crumbling apart in Nassau. Yes.
Exactly. And the paint peeling and things, right? And it's just like, I was just like, and we had been in London, so we'd had that.
Sure. Yeah.
But it's been a
not
while.
On these islands. Yeah. Because I think for me, at least, I associated... the fact that everything was a bit weather beaten was because it was on an island, because it was actually physically weather beaten. Right. But of course, there's something, this is a place that is maintained, is meticulously maintained. And Nassau, of course, is not and hasn't been in some time.
Well, and also to remind you how, at this point, the Spanish Empire was very strong.
Yes. Strong and wealthy. Yes, clearly.
So it's very important to be reminded. We had stories about the Rosario raids, but still it's very important to remember how strong Spain is.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah. Boy, do we get to see a lot of that. So then we have the thing where Grendel, where Woodes Rogers is going towards the governor, and Grendel and Hudson are talking, and he tells her it was a mistake to come.
Right. Yep. He must already know. Mm-hmm.
Something. Whether he knows the story the governor's going to tell, or maybe there's. I felt like that was like maybe we haven't even learned yet what the.
Oh, sure, could be
what the mistake may be. You know what I mean? Like there's just maybe aspects of this that we don't even know yet. Okay, so I don't feel like I have a lot to say here. Like Rogers, has his little argument that we are only enemies because our kings are at war with each other.
Right.
That governor was like, well, actually, that story that,
You killed my brother. Prepare to die.
Oh, my God. We really just have to do some sort of Princess Bride.
We must.
Black Sails crossover
thing.
We
must.
Oh, you just made me so happy.
I'm glad.
So he's like, yeah, don't insult me by telling me my king tells me to hate you. I hate you a lot. And then Rogers brings up the cash. And then I guess that worked because we see those ships later on.
Did. A lot of ships. Beautiful. Oh God, those Spanish ships are so flipping gorgeous.
All right, you enjoy them for a second, and then I'm going to freak out about the doom.
Oh, no. No, it's doomsday. We're all going to die. But yes.
But we're going to die because very beautiful ships are coming.
It's true. Yeah, it'll be a beautiful death.
Oh, my God. I know we're not at the end of this episode, but can I just say for a minute, what the fuck is about to happen?
War is about to happen.
Oh my God.
No, it's going to be incredible. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to that episode. Like this, I know that this is right up your alley, like all of this political intrigue and the laying out of things. And for me, I enjoy this episode. Don't hear me wrong. I enjoy this episode very well. But the first time I watched it, I fell asleep and had to watch it again the next morning. Granted, I was very tired. And then the second time I watched it, I still started to get drowsy at the exact same spot. And I was like, oh, there I am again, getting drowsy. Yeah.
Right.
So
and you're like, it's okay, because Daphne's like, oh, politics.
I know. And I'm just like, so now all of the Spanish ships are coming to the harbor. I'm like, yes, we're going to blow some stuff up. People are going to cry. There's going to be relationship stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
The intrigue is less for me.
Right. So yeah, I love all of it.
Sure.
As you know. But yes, I see those ships and I'm just like, I'm terrified.
Yes.
I'm absolutely terrified.
You're probably right.
No, I mean, we're both right. Because,
yeah, we're both right. Yeah.
Exactly. Battle scene's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I just filled with dread. All right. Next, we have Silver and Billy again. And they're resurrecting the walrus. That's the walrus.
Which is so funny. What does Silver say about it's fucking unnatural?
Yes, he says everything we put that ship through and she refuses to die. It's fucking unnatural. Yep. Can I just say that for me, this is like what Teach said about Flint. Where he said,
this is definitely about Flint again. Yeah.
Even I forget what he says, you're unkillable or you're long overdue. Is that what he says? Something like that.
Something like that.
Didn't write down that quote, but but I also feel like this is a bit of a wink and a nod, because of Treasure Island. Like I just love, I don't know. For me, it's kind of a comical moment because I felt like it was a bit of a wink and a nod to the fact that we know that Silver and Billy can't die.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Like crazy shit has happened to both of them in the show and they can't die because they're going to be in Treasure Island.
Fair.
Right. Sure. Whatever. There have been other resurrections and weird things in this show. Okay. So then now we must be very serious. This very serious conversation. So Billy says, he tries to sweet talk Silver and says, well, Flint didn't believe in you. And then he says, you're exactly what I hoped you would be, which is kind of a compliment, but it's a bit patronizing, no?
Well, he said that he was a rational leader, right? Exactly what I thought you would be, being someone who can lead us without that strange emotional whirlpool or what you want to call it that that Flint has had that's sucking him down and everybody else with him.
Absolutely, but I don't know. To me, they're just okay. Maybe and we'll relate to this in the next scene when he's talking to Hans. Like I just feel like we just have a lot of people using Silver, using Long John Silver, and using John Silver, and
to their ends
again, disregarding the man, and really only valuing him for the service he can do them, even though in theory he's the king.
Yeah, and that would be why he said, "Would I be enough to Maddie?"
Right. Just me. Just John Silver.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So it's interesting. So then Silver's like, oh, seriously? He's like, Billy, you try so hard, but you're not as smart as me.
Right.
I'm sorry. You just want them to follow me as long as I'm going to follow you. And you, by the way, you're trying to do pretty much what you've always given Flint shit for. And here you go, trying to use me so that you can do that thing. So, but then Billy says, but look how much I'm trying to persuade you. Which again, a bit patronizing. Yeah. But I mean, kind of a nice thing. Like basically like, look, I don't want to just kill you. I really want to be in coalition with you.
Sure. Yeah.
But, I don't know. Seems like a pretty half-assed way to say, like, dude, I like you. Right? Yeah, Billy's not doing a great job. I mean, he was in the last scene, I felt like, making more sense in this. Because then he also says that Silver says we made a deal with Maddie's people. And Billy's like, well, that wasn't my deal. And he says it wasn't your deal. And it's like, wait a minute. Did you not understand, like, who Silver's girlfriend is now?
I wonder about that. Does he?
Well, he said it last episode when he was like, you've come to care for her.
Right.
And like did his whole threat about Flint being dangerous to her. Oh, no, he totally knows.
That's true. Yeah, no, you're right.
So I was just like, I mean, even if Silver wasn't part of that decision making, it's like Silver's pretty, again, Silver's pretty immersed, and yet during this episode, I feel like that immersion, that commitment to Maddie and her people is supposed to be somewhat cast into doubt for us. Mm-hmm. So, but I don't feel like Billy really should be knowing that, and it just seems like a bad argument on his point. Mm-hmm. It just, like Silver already got really pissed off at him for threatening Maddie, so it just seems like, I don't know. Seems like a weak argument.
It does seem. You're absolutely right. Yeah, it seems.
Billy's limited on this stuff. Love him.
It's true.
Love him slightly less lately.
Love him very much. A little more brawn than brain sometimes. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, again, he's got a lot of potential.
He does. No, he does. Of course he does.
He did a great job as a propagandist. But he's, whatever. I mean, you're up against Silver. What you gonna do?
It's true. Mm-hmm.
But then he does make a lot of sense where he says, wait a minute, this war thing is nuts. Mm-hmm. Again, I agree. It's kind of nuts. Yes. Mm-hmm. He's like, we have Nassau, and all of Maddie's people could come live here.
Right.
Like they need a place.
Which I feel like is a perfectly good point. Yes.
A perfectly good point. And it's a bit of a build a wall and keep them safe kind of argument.
It is. That's interesting. Right? Yeah. Okay. So we see where Maddie is aligning with Flint and her mother is aligning with Billy's way of thinking. That's interesting.
Possibly, right?
Sure.
All right. So next we have Silver looking so tired, poor man.
Oh, yeah.
He goes into that office.
Beautiful. Oh, Luke Arnold. You beautiful man. Yes.
I know.
This is excellent work.
I know this whole episode just killing me.
We see so much of his exhaustion, more than physical. Yeah, just a deep soul level exhaustion.
Exactly. Right. I mean, he's being torn to pieces, and part of that is because of everyone telling stories about him.
Sure.
Again, so this is where this really comes down. This whole sense that like being king means that you not just serve other people, like the way Maddie's talked about serving her people, like back when she made the choice to free her man who had been beaten by Dobbs, when she talked about serving her people. But you serve them in a story way, like that you are a figurehead, you're a story, that to some extent a king is always a fiction, because a king is only a king because people believe he's a king.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Silver's here, like, it's not just like he arrived and he's, the new king of Nassau and he's Long John Silver and everyone just like, he gets to like just, eat bonbons and everyone does his bidding. Mm-hmm. Everyone wants something from him. Yeah. Everyone wants to use the power of that story to their own purposes. Mm-hmm. Right. So Israel Hands shows up and Silver is just, he's like, okay, I've got a dude in a room with me, so now I'm just going to talk my thoughts out loud. Mm-hmm. And he talks about his commitment to Flint and Maddie. And then he says, but they're going down a road that I'm a losing ability to understand, which is a mirror of what Billy said to Flint when they were on the Underhill estate. He said, you're going down a road only you can see, or a path that only you can see.
Absolutely. Yeah, sure.
So this is Silver kind of echoing that without having heard Billy say it.
Right.
And he talks about, Billy pissed me off, but he used to be my closest friend, and now I remember. But do I kill him?
Although I have to say, that seems a little bit like narrativizing on Silver's part, too. I don't remember he and Billy being the closest friends. They were good allies for the ship.
Right.
But it wasn't anything like his relationship that he had with, was it Muldoon, who...
Well, right. We see him with Muldoon. Again, that was a touching scene. I don't think that with Muldoon, it ever was not that the relationship of a subordinate
that
and
is
a beloved.
No, you know
what I mean?
That. Yeah.
There was a lot of emotion there, and a lot of what Silver was sad about was the fact that his responsibility
was to him. Sure.
Exactly. That his responsibility as a leader is what led to Muldoon's death.
Right.
Billy is the only person for most of season 3 who was on Silver's kind of tier of leadership and his friend.
That is true. They still seemed more like, peers, certainly.
Well, and again, like I said, I don't think Billy was a very good friend because Billy was like...
No. I mean, I think Flint is a better friend to him, actually.
Yeah, also not a great friend, but yes,
also
definitely
not a
better
great friend. No.
Right.
But
like, Maddie's kind of his first good friend.
Maddie, no, absolutely is. Yeah, certainly. Certainly she is.
And Israel Hands is not. I mean, Israel is definitely...
Although I'm really loving him.
Oh my God, I love him.
I love him. Yeah, he is such a compelling, strange, amazing, fascinating character. Yes.
I don't want to hang out with him or anything.
Oh, no. Yeah.
But
and the actor
I don't love him that
is
way. Like, I don't
nailing it too.
Oh my God. Yeah, I don't love him the way I love Teach. Like, I wanted to hang out with Teach. He was a scary bastard, but I totally want to hang with him.
Absolutely, yeah. I'll be wife number 10.
Right. I would. Too late. Sorry.
Oh. Yeah.
But Israel Hands is so compelling, and we just really don't understand what his role is yet, and I love the process of finding it out.
Yes.
And again, I just want to remind everyone, I love this thing that he's a historical character and also a Treasure Island character so much.
Yes,
I just feel like the tension of that is so embedded in what's going on in the story. I love it. I love it very much. So yeah, so he slaps Silver a bunch of times, which is not generally how one treats their king.
But God, that was effective and cool.
Oh my God.
That was such a lesson in leadership for Silver. That was a huge...
I think also very telling about Israel Hands. Like, remember how Israel Hands talked about what he did when he severed the tie with the old governor, with England in the past, that, you know, that that James McGraw had seen in 1705-ish.
Right.
He talked about him doing it. And that basically Teach was, the old king was basically his backup. Like, he is, I think, increasingly proving that he sees himself as the hero of his own story. I mean, everyone does that to some, but I mean, I think he sees himself as or the protagonist of this story, possibly, and that a king is useful to him. But what an interesting thing, like the person who sees himself as the protagonist, but chooses to be the right-hand man.
Right. Interesting.
That if you can basically help a king be a good king for the sake of everyone following him, but you're maybe kind of calling the shots. Again, remember the conversation he had with Flint in the last episode. About how he saw his place with Teach and how he warned Flint about how, you know, what happens if Long John Silver stops listening to Flint.
Interesting.
But Silver's listening to him right now, isn't he?
Yeah, no, he sure is. Well, he's making a really compelling point. Of course, actually slapping him across the face as he does it. So, but I love that, though. Don't show me you waffling. Like, I don't even care what you choose. Just be
fucking
strong.
Choose it.
Just choose it and just make your choice. And there's so much to be said about that. Yeah, don't show me. What does he say? Don't make me feel it.
Right. Don't make me suffer the thinking.
Don't make me suffer the thinking. God.
What a thing to say to Silver, of all people. Like a man whose like whole existence is thinking, basically.
I need to watch the scene and think about it more times. This is one that has too much happening for just the fresh eyes, I think.
Well, and I think this is a scene that we're going to have to, once we understand more about what's going on with him, we will end up talking about this scene, because I just feel like there's,
of course,
right, because we still, I mean, I'm just saying all this out. I do believe that Israel Hands sees himself as a powerful protagonist and sees the named, remember, like how he responded when Silver talked to him about being nobody. Like he sees himself as the protagonist and the famous pirates as being useful to him.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he probably feels that he learned from his mistakes with Teach, and he probably can figure out how to not make those same mistakes with the new king. It's fascinating. But he also ends up being like a part of Silver's thought process, because I mean this was something Silver has chosen to use this story told of him, but he hadn't yet perfected that use.
No, he hadn't stepped into the role fully yet, I don't think.
Right.
He's trying to, but I think he's just now starting to comprehend just what that role entails. Yeah.
And the loneliness of it.
The loneliness of it, the responsibility of it, the weight of the crown. Yeah.
So he says, worry is not a good look for a king.
Mm-hmm.
Not in a kingdom like this where loyalty is in short supply.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I just feel like this goes back to that moment in the beginning of the episode where we see Silver so alone and so small and on a precipice.
Mm-hmm.
Is that he's basically saying, like, to be the king means that you have to just deal with this shit by yourself. Nobody wants to hear you waffling. He's basically saying that to be a king is to be alone. You don't get to hash it out with people.
And even if you have a council, like even a king's council of advisors is different from this kind of the emotional vulnerability that he showed Hans then, which Hans is not the guy to show that. No, you don't get to do. Yeah, you can show it to Maddie,
right?
Even I think he could show it to Flint,
but not to Hans.
But not to Hans. No, not to anyone who's a subordinate.
He and Flint definitely had conversations like that, and Flint tried to make space for that. I mean, again, in season 3, I trusted their relationship less, so I thought that was a manipulative thing.
Yeah.
Still could be.
Still could be. Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's the other thing. It's like, who do you trust? Like, here he is in a situation where all the people that he cares about, they all want something of him.
Yeah.
I mean, Maddie least of all.
Right.
But so, and again, and I think that is why, that explains why he chooses her road.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That he's just getting a whole lot of people not, needing him to be a king and not needing him to be a man.
Right. Oh, that's good. Yes.
I know. I'm very, yeah. Okay, so then we have Billy and Silver again. And yeah, this scene, like I just studied it because, okay, I think Billy thinks that he has influenced Silver. I mean, he's still making arguments to some extent, but he's just, he does say something about Flint. I don't remember which lines he said about Flint, but, he did say something about Flint, but then basically he said, all you have to do is look the other way.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So again, it's just like this, I don't know, it's just like these, subordinates who are just all trying to influence him. And then Silver says that it shouldn't happen in view of the beach, which I honestly, back then, I was so unsure that I was like, well, maybe he just doesn't want people seeing Flint killed.
Oh, uh-huh.
And then when Maddie comes and asks, what was that? Now, again, we do get a shot of Hans and Israel Hans, and Silver does look over towards his direction, I'm pretty sure. But still, it's all very unclear. And then when Maddie comes and asks him, what was that? It meant to me that she was not yet in on the plan.
Right. For sure.
And he kisses her head.
Yeah, which is lovely.
It is lovely. Again, head kissing has had many different meanings. Remember when Anne kissed Max? I mean, okay, we have Jack and Anne with a bunch of head kisses. When Anne kissed Max's head, it was to say goodbye to her. Like, head kissing has a lot of different meanings in this show.
But, I mean, he ended up he sided with her, though. He chose her.
No, he did. But I'm just saying, at this point on my first watch, I was not positive that that's what he was doing.
See. Yeah.
I was not at all positive that he was choosing her.
Yeah. All right.
Again, the whole the would I be enough and her not being able to answer it was very weighty in my mind right then.
Of course.
And his exhaustion, it just felt like Silver, maybe once upon a time his instincts were to cut and run, and he went a different direction for so long, and I've never felt that urge from him again until now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That suddenly he just had this urge to cut and run.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then we have the scene. Right. Oh, and then we have Eleanor. Like, before they leave the fort, Eleanor is very concerned about Silver. Like, he gave her instructions to go to the northwest tunnel, and she talks to Flint, and Flint's just like, I have no concerns at all when he's looking at her.
I like that. I'm appearing unconcerned. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Because
Yes.
then he gets like super twitchy.
Because he definitely, after she walks away, he's like, wait, what now? Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
No, I know.
Seeming unconcerned.
Exactly.
Totally true. It's totally
Yes.
true. Right. So yeah, I just like had so many levels of worry here.
Mm-hmm.
It was constructed beautifully for my way that
Yes.
I experience stories. So then we have the weird configuration of Billy waiting near the tunnel entrance. I mean, that's not weird. I'm sure that was very smart to have Billy there and not have a giant gang of people at the tunnel because they want them to actually come out of the tunnel. Mm-hmm. And then Israel Hands looks at Jacob Garrett, and that's when Jacob Garrett... And I think that was the first level of doubt. When I know that Israel Hands looks at Jacob Garrett, and only then does Jacob Garrett go up to Billy, I was just like...
Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah.
He's just been commanded to go walk and be next to Billy. The stuff he says. So then Billy's like not having a clue yet. He's like, okay, they're going to come out and we need them all to come out. And then I will handle Flint. Nobody else touch Flint, which also like, that was for me also a sign that Billy's just like gone down that vengeance road.
Yeah.
Right? He's not like trying. It's not like what Jacob Garrett says. It's not like he's like, oh, a friend should be the one to kill you.
Right.
This is like, Flint is mine. That way more had that feeling.
Yes, definitely.
And then I love what Jacob Garrett, I mean, this whole thing is just like, he's like, you're the one who did this.
I like Jacob Garrett a lot. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, no, I like him.
Right. And we haven't, I mean, he's not been a major character, but he's had a cool arc himself.
Yeah.
That when we first met him, he was just like, I'm going to be a famous pirate. I'm going to be a captain. Everyone's going to talk about me. And then he dies an honorable death because of his principles. An honorable death that was never going to. I mean, again, he had that thing like Jack Rackham, like, I'm going to be famous. Everyone's going to know about me. And then he's just like, you know what? I'm just going to die for honor. No one's ever going to remember me. No one's ever going to know about the pirate Jacob Garrett.
Wow.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's good. I hadn't thought about that.
So just this whole sense that like you built this thing, it would have never happened without you. And all Silver needed to do, like you created the myth of Silver. And then because of that, all he needed to do was say your name. And it didn't even matter that they believed the story.
Which was so fascinating. I loved that. I mean, Billy was so shocked that they would so easily believe that of him. And gosh, to see Jacob Garrett kind of marveling at this idea that it's just that no one wanted to defy him. Like no one could defy what he said. It didn't matter if they believed it or not. That is power. And that's right. That's the power that Billy gave Silver. Silver didn't earn that himself. Oh, that's fascinating.
It is fascinating. See, I'm going to argue that it's actually a combination. Like Billy's a great storyteller, so he was able to create, it took Billy a long time to join the ranks of storytellers in this story. He's a great storyteller. He could create the myth of Long John Silver.
Sure.
But Silver's the best storyteller. That he could take...
Oh, of course.
That he could take that and combine that with his own ability to tell stories. So there was no way Billy ever had a chance against Silver. Billy was just never on his level. And also the idea of propping up the king. Like, this is the danger of it, is that if you had Billy used his storytelling abilities, which we found out, just in season 3, that Billy had this... Had he used that to create himself as king, like had he had the courage to really just tell the story of his own power.
Yeah, but you can't tell a story about yourself, can you?
That's true.
I don't think he could have.
Right. You never, no ghost story starts with the ghost introducing himself.
Exactly. That's exactly what he says. Yeah.
That's true. I mean, Silver's storytelling had always been used in service of Flint. Yeah, so maybe it just comes down to it that Silver's just the better storyteller, ultimately.
Yeah, I think so.
That Billy gave him a jump start, but again, you're right. Silver had always done that for Flint, and yet Silver kind of surpassed Flint as well. Wow. Right. So, and I love what he says when he yells at them. He says, "You've all forgotten your oaths, They were given to this man when that man was just a fiction.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And again, this goes back to that thing, from last episode, that Jacob Garrett is one of Billy's men. A lot of the men standing there are walrus men.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how much this would actually resonate for them, because they had been since the split.
Sure.
I mean, of course, Billy was their brother, but since the split, Billy was with the people on Nassau.
Yeah.
And
no, I didn't think
and
about
like
that.
Joji and Dooley were there, and they had been with Flint and Silver this whole time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then Silver activates Hands. I just love all the looks between Silver and Hands. He just looks to Hands, and Hands like, okay, then you've now activated me. I will go do that thing.
Such a badass. I love to watch his fighting. I mean, and it was horrible to watch. It was horrible to watch what he did to Billy, but it was good too. I mean, it was good TV.
Yes, I know. It's almost like when there's a battle scene where ships are being hurt.
Yes, exactly. And it was like, painful to watch, also gorgeous though. Yeah, no, this, ooh. Man, that is violent.
Oh, yeah. No, he's brutal and
and
efficient.
Right.
Like,
and
remember our whole thing about different fight styles.
Just totally different brutality. The weapon, it's the weapons, really. Yeah.
Yeah, and the fight style is just like, it's what he does it's efficient without being smooth. Like, it feels like very much a blunt instrument.
Strength and force behind it. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oof,
right.
Yeah,
and he doesn't do those like cat-like moves that Anne and Vane do. It's just like, it's not at all. He's just like, I am just strength and brutality. I will just come at you.
Right.
Okay, so and then we have on the flip side we have where Eleanor and Flint and the soldiers actually come out, and then there's Maddie. Yeah, and that for me was also so powerful, like that Eleanor and Maddie were actually facing each other.
Yeah, that's right. Because I had one. And do you think that she'll recognize her?
Well, Maddie knows who's. Do you think Eleanor? I mean, Eleanor now.
Yeah.
Well, she wouldn't recognize her because they were very small children. She probably will understand who she was Flint, she just that day found out that Scott's daughter was even still alive.
Yeah. But because of that, I think it's fresh on her mind. So I wonder if it'll be that immediate recognition of who this must be.
I know. We didn't get the conversation. Like, we could have had a conversation, but what they ended up doing is going towards the beach and meeting Jack.
Yes.
So, but yes, I am looking forward to a conversation between Eleanor and Maddie.
Between those two. Absolutely, me too.
Yeah. We need that conversation. I'm really looking forward to it. But yeah, just the power of them looking at each other, to be honest, was like pretty huge. Right. After Maddie, back in season 3, when Maddie was on Nassau and she said, this is her place. Right. We were friends once, and now we're on opposite sides of this thing that's going to become so very brutal.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah.
And now suddenly they're not really, except because Jack reminded us, like, all these machinations of this episode that you all just did, all these like difficult decisions that Silver just went through, doesn't really matter. Because Woodes Rogers is a terrifying monster.
Is terrifying. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I also love all this doubt with Flint. Like, we had Billy saying to Silver, like, seriously, you chose this? Like, and then he's like, no, actually, it's Flint. And Jack also is like, wait a minute.
Right.
You made this deal? Did Silver agree to this deal?
Uh-huh.
I like it that suddenly everyone's just like, we don't actually think that Flint is like, we don't listen to Flint. Like, we don't trust Flint to make good choices. Where was Silver in this?
Right. Oh, how funny. Yep.
Right? Don't you love that Jack asked that? I was just like, I kind of love, like, Jack knows who Silver is. Jack gets it. Jack would like for Silver to be calling the shots.
Jack gets everybody pretty well, I think.
Know,
he has a pretty good read on everybody. Yeah.
I know. I love it. But I also, like, I can't hear that without hearing, I think both Luke and Toby talked about, like, their kind of imaginary thing where, like, Jack and Silver are probably hanging out
yeah,
right, exactly.
Absolutely.
Hanging out off camera. So there's one thing I really wanted to bring up about Billy, I'm still very influenced by, I think it was Cabin Boy. I think Andrew Dice had talked about how Billy had kind of brought up, I don't think he said it, or maybe he did say it, but like brought up these thoughts for me about like how Billy, that we always saw Billy as so pure, and now suddenly he's like turning dark.
Sure.
But I think that the arc has been more sophisticated than that. Like in the first episode, that's when we first called Billy a kingmaker, by the way. Like that's when you and I first called him a kingmaker. And he was literally doing that when he chose to lie about that blank page. But Billy's whole conflict in the very first episode of this show was about whether or not Nassau should have a king. Like that was the argument that he and Flint had on that boat, was just like, we don't have kings here. And Flint was like, civilization's coming. You know, that was that conversation.
I remember. Yes.
But I think looking back now, like now that again, we don't know what's going to happen with Billy in the next few episodes, but I feel like this was a significant fall for Billy, right? This was like his hubris has took him to this place. And like that shit did not work out for him, the whole hubris thing. But I find it so interesting that now he's been brought down by the king he actually made. Like that we had been calling him kingmaker, and then he actually made a king. And the process of making that king is what led to his downfall. I mean, it would have been his death had Silver not stopped Israel Hands.
Yeah. It's pretty powerful stuff. Yes.
So what I'm starting to think is like that maybe this process really actually started in the first episode, even though we saw him as so good and pure throughout.
Our little cinnamon roll.
Right. Yeah. Well, you know, that's what I'm saying. Maybe there was like a little bit of darkness inserted in the cinnamon roll in the first episode when he chose to lie to his brothers.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And that it just took us a while.
Yeah, his arc started right then. Absolutely.
Right? I just find that fascinating. And that this whole concept of kingmaker really ended up, you know, it was like kind of more of a metaphorical kingmaker. Yes. And then it became an actual kingmaker, a maker of the king story. I love that. I mean, and I'm sad. I'm really sad. I'm sad about Billy. I'm sad for Billy. Still a little angry at Billy. I have a lot of feelings about Billy right now.
Completely fair.
So that's it. I just really wanted to bring that up. I feel like I need to put more thought into Billy's arc. Like I feel like I didn't pay as much attention to it as the ones that were more obviously happening and about darkness.
Yeah.
He is cinnamon roll no longer.
No,
I'd like to say.
I think that's he's a full-on bear claw now.
So we're just going to still define him as a pastry. We still define him as pastry.
Still a pastry. Definitely still scrumptious. Don't get me wrong. Like I want him for breakfast.
All right. Everyone tweeted us which pastry you think Billy Bones really is now. I would love to hear, like, with explanation. I need Billy Bones is this pastry and this is why. All right. Let's move on to our game.
Okay.
Ready to guns! Full complement!
So this week this is our last week of doing season 4 predictions before we move on to our new game. The prediction for this one was about episode 4 of season 4, and the question was whether Rogers was going to make it to Nassau.
Okay.
There had been questions about whether he was going to make it to the fort. No, that wasn't we had said fort counts, but he didn't. Somebody asked if it was the bay counts. He did make it there. That is not land. We said feet on the ground in Nassau.
Right.
So yes, the answer was no. He definitely didn't. And
did not. Yes.
Let's go through our pirate names and such and our prizes.
Yeah, lots of promotions, I think, this week.
Yep, and the ships people maybe took. Okay.
All
right, Liz, you ready for the list?
I'm ready. Yep. Fire away.
Okay, our first person is Megan at Ithaca. Gets a new ship.
She does. Okay, and she just got the Minotaur, right? I think that was her.
No, she got the Cutlass.
Oh, she did?
Sorry.
Okay. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm glad you're keeping track of everything. All right.
Yeah, I've got our beautiful spreadsheet in front of me.
Oh, good. Okay, well,
Silver
she's got
Sue.
the cutlass. Then we'll give her another sword of some sort, right? A rapier? The rapier?
Yes.
Yep, I
There
like
you go.
it.
Oh, beautiful. Okay, next up is at Old Long John, who is now a quartermaster.
Congratulations.
Okay, also at Here Be Megan, who is Hawkeye to Gallant, now is a quartermaster.
Congratulations. Hawkeye to Gallant, that's good. I know I came up with that.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
You did.
I like
It's
it.
awesome. Liz, there is nothing wrong with you being happy with your name creations. I support that.
Thanks.
Next, at K Mulholland 77, who is Crazy Kate Mulholland. You are now a bosun.
Congratulations. Way to go. Moving on up.
All right. Next is, I'm almost there. I'm scrolling. We have so many pirates now. Next is at M the Beastie, Cassandra McKillum. You are now a quartermaster.
Way to go.
Okay, next at Tam Tam Peterson is now a bosun.
Congratulations.
Okay, next up at Thomas Sarah C, who is Wood-Eye Wilkins, is now a quartermaster.
Very good.
Well, I like when the spreadsheet is with me, because then Liz gets to be delighted by her own pirate names. It's really cute. Okay. Yeah, we need to always do it this way.
Embarrassing.
It's adorable. Okay, next. Next is at XXXIII Roses. Yes, you need to create a pirate name.
Oh, yeah. Who gets a pirate name? Yeah, and I saw that she was a Silver fan or a Luke Arnold fan. So 7 Roses is good anyway. I'm going to call her then Silverthorn Thackeray.
Oh, that's excellent.
Silverthorn.
Love it.
Silverthorn is cool. Well, Roses. Okay.
Yes.
Moving right along.
Okay, next. Quick Click Clark.
Quick Click Clark. Yeah, that's harder to say. Quick Click Clark.
That's
sometimes
hard for you to
it
say.
rolls right off the tongue, and sometimes it just totally stops me.
I think that's the first time I've tried to say it. At Clower Cottage, Kim gets a new ship.
She
has the
ship.
Lone Star, the Alamo, and the Santa Ana.
Oh, she sure does. Yeah, I'm getting her Texas ones because that's where she's from, down in San Antonio. So, yeah, let's give her the Mesquite.
The Mesquite. Nice. Okay. And next, Katie Bonner, who is Cat o' Nine Tails.
Yes.
And is now a quartermaster.
All
Yay,
right.
Katie. Okay. Next up is at Gypsy Book Nerd, who's Esmeralda Salt.
I still really like that pirate name too. Esmeralda Salt's a good one.
Awesome. Gets to be a captain. Give that lady a ship.
Oh, way to go. And she gets a ship. Okay, well, it'll have to be the Frollo, right?
Excellent. All righty. Next up, at K8 Met, who is Ariadne Skitter.
Yeah.
A name near and dear to my heart, which I will tell that story at some point, is a bosun now. Congratulations.
Yep.
At Bryce Winterson, who is Bryce the Ice Heart Winterson, is a bosun now. Congratulations.
Mm-hmm.
And now...
Yeah, that was a hard name to improve upon. I remember that. I was like, Bryce Winterson is already an excellent pirate name.
I know. It's hard sometimes.
Right? Yeah.
Okay. Ooh. Scorpion Pierce gets a ship.
Oh, Scorpion Pierce.
She has the Isis and the Osiris.
I was going to say, she's already got a couple. Good. Okay. The Isis and the Osiris and the Nefertiti.
Okay. And then did we decide it's Cassie or Casey? And Cassie or Casey didn't tell us, but she's Casey Mordew is now a bosun. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Very good.
And Caliban Kelly gets another ship.
Gets another ship.
So she has the Vesper and the Miranda and the Prospero.
The Ariel, I suppose. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, the Ariel.
Okay, fabulous. And next is at Great Chemistry. Jen also gets another ship. She has the Squall and the Amazon Queen and the Minotaur.
Oh, she was the one who had the Minotaur. Yes, I was in the Greek thing. So we'll give her another. What's another good Greek? The Cerberus. We'll give her that.
Oh, excellent. All right, and next is at Usagi Biker.
Oh yeah, Red Tide Rider.
Yep, maker of special pirate hats for special pirates.
Yes, she's so delightful.
Okay, Usagi Biker, you are now a quartermaster.
Congratulations, my girl.
And then we have one new pirate, or I guess a second new pirate, who also has a pretty fantastic name. You're going to like this one, Liz, at Wine Dark Sales.
Wine Dark Sales. Oh, God,
I knew you were gonna like
good.
That.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, Wine Dark Sales. So, something Bordeaux, right? Yeah. I already have it. No, I don't. Yeah, Beatrix Bordeaux. We'll do that.
So that's that. Congratulations, everyone. That was fabulous. And I'm going to now describe the next game. So we're going back to thesis statements because we loved that.
Yeah, thesis statements are great. Mm-hmm.
So we're going back to thesis statements. The way it's going to work is we are not going to tell you what our thesis statement for this episode is, obviously, because you need to guess. So you will be hearing this episode we'll drop it right after the episode of Black Sails. You have until Thursday at midnight to tell us your thesis statement. And what you're doing is you're basically guessing the one that Liz and I agreed on.
Yes.
So there is only one right answer, and it's based completely on what Liz and I decided is.
Yep.
But if you guess the thing that the two of us have agreed on, then you get a pirate name or a promotion or a ship in the next episode. And we will give those out when we discuss episode 6 of season 4. All right.
Fantastic.
So we'll see you all next week.
Okay. Well, then thanks so much for joining us. And until next week from Common Room Radio, I am Liz Stevens.
And I'm Daphne Olive.
Fathoms Deep is a Common Room Radio production. For more information and access to other programs, please visit us at commonroomradio.com. To show your support, pledges of as little as $1 a month can be made to patreon.com/commonroomradio. Join the conversation by using the hashtag #Fathoms Deep and follow us on Twitter at BlackSailsCast. We ask that you keep your tweets respectful and positive, and please avoid spoilers. If you have more to say, we want to hear it in all its spoiler glory. Email us at podcast@commonroomradio.com with Fathoms Deep in the subject line. Thanks for listening.